And first experiment which we are trying to do, I'm just trying to doing it for the first time. Yes, everything when you're doing it for the first time, you'll be a little nervous and there'll be a lot of things might fall between the crack, but nevertheless, that should not stop us from doing it. So we will do it. Uh, and this specifically, this episode, I mean, of course, I'm going to start the recording a little later, but then I thought I'll just set some ground rules, or rather just speak without any recording. I just thought that let me share the background of why I wanted to dedicate this session to women specifically. And I've not told it to Karen also about this. And the first time I'm breaking this news, because I had this last 1 year, I lost two wonderful women in my life. And I thought that let me just dedicate that to them. Okay. So yeah, that's the reason I'm doing it. So let's start this. So in another few minutes, we will continue with this. Okay. So we'll wait for a minute and then we will start out this particular session. I think we will have some more people, Karen, joining. Okay, we'll just wait for some time and then we will do that. Okay, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem,
Yeah.
Girish. And I'm very sorry to hear about your loss.
Good.
God
It's
rest their souls.
yeah.
Yeah. Great dedication.
So yeah. So we'll start out this just a second. All right, so I'm just starting recording now. Guys, there'll be a video recording which will be done, and we try to actually cut this a little bit, and Karen will be here. So, and then there'll be a voice recording also will be done, and it will be converted into a podcast, and we're trying to put it on probably put it on Spotify or maybe on LinkedIn. I'll just put it there, and we're having a place where we are going to post this. So yeah, I think, I mean, like we have a session for you guys to ask questions also to Karen. And although I've dedicated this to women, and we have some wonderful men also. I mean, in case if you have any questions to ask, please be free to ask. Don't hesitate. And let it be a more interactive sessions. We will dedicate about 10 to 15 minutes time at the end of the session. First, I will be asking, I've taken some of your questions. I'll be asking these questions to Karen, and then subsequently we will be doing, you will be allowed to ask questions. Okay. Will that be fine, guys? And my personal request is that until when you're allowed to unmute, that then only you can unmute and ask any questions, please. Okay. So thank you so much. And I'll just start the recording right now.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the first episode of Red Flag Radios. This podcast is unpacked. Sorry, I'll cut it again. Okay. Welcome to the first episode of Red Flag Radios, the podcast where we unpack red flags in compliance from people to process to technology. I couldn't think of a better way of dedicating my first episodes to honor the real heroes among us, the mothers, the wives, the sisters, the daughters, and most importantly, the working women. These are the ones who have taken care of us, built our homes, cooked for us, and cared for us. Every day they juggle with the crystal ball, and this is done with a mighty heart, strength, and grace. I call them superwomen because they are exactly what they are. To mark this launch, we have a very special guest amongst ourselves, the incredible Karen Atayed. She is a Gallup certified strength coach, trainer, and a tech consultant. Karen helps women to navigate both in career challenges and personal responsibilities with resilience. She is committed to helping women to break barriers and thrive through the strength-based coaching. Today, together we will explore emotional and mental challenges that a woman may face, and while trying to have balance their high pressure compliance role and with family commitments. This episode is for all women was torn between the suspicious transaction report and school homework, tight deadlines and a toddler's bedtime story, compliance meeting and family meals. And yes, you will have a live question and answer session where you may ask Karen about it. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining us. And I would, if you have to say something about yourself, please be free to share it.
Thank
Over
you
to
for
you,
that
Karen.
introduction, Girish. I don't know about Incredible, but yes, I'm coming from a tech background, so I'm an engineer by profession. You know, when you get to 10th grade and you got to choose, I had only two options available to me, engineering and medical. So I don't like blood, I chose engineering. So I am a software engineer. I'm also a sister, a daughter, a mother to two girls. Um, I was in a corporate role until 2 years ago, and that was a full-time job. So I know all about juggling. I know all about how difficult it is to be a mother, to be a wife, and to be a working woman at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would love to have this space to actually share what I've experienced with you, and also perhaps take any questions that you have and make it more
Absolutely.
meaningful for all of you.
Thank you so much. I have a set of students who are working mothers, and they often come back to me telling some of the important points regarding the work-life balance. Now, you as a woman, and you have been also having a high-pressure job. Can you tell me how this high-pressure job is becoming some kind of, they burn out over when they come home? How do you think that a woman can manage all these things?
Hmm. Burnout is actually quite a buzzword right at this point in time, I would say. Burnout normally comes when we try to meet everybody's expectations, but we forget ourselves. So when I first started out in my career, yes, I was also a junior engineer working my way up. At that point, I was married, but I didn't have children, so I could focus on my career. However, as I started to go up the ladder and I started to have a family, it became difficult to manage everything at the same time. So what did I do? I would suggest always remind yourself that you're not one person. You are one person. You're not more than one person.
Yeah.
So you can be fully committed. You can give 100% to something some of the times,
That's
not
true.
all the times.
That's
Keep
true.
that boundary. Yes, keep that boundary. And most important, I think the most important thing is don't forget yourself. You know
Great.
how yes. Yeah, sorry, Girish. Yeah.
No, that's great, actually. I mean, really appreciating what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you know how when we get onto an aeroplane and we travel, I think most of us are travelers.
Mhm.
What is it that they do just before the plane takes off? They give you
Mhm.
safety instructions. And when they give you safety instructions, for me, this has always been important because I travel with my children, or I used to travel with my children. They always say, put on your oxygen mask first before you
Fantastic.
put it on for someone else. And I've always taken that with me wherever I go. Because even when I still remember when my daughter was very young, my eldest girl was very young, and I had to feed her. I used to come home from work extremely tired, and I needed to have a meal myself. And I
Mhm.
feel guilty. How can I have a meal when my daughter is hungry? So what do? I remind myself that if I don't take my meal, I can't be fully present for her. So I started to eat first, even if it's a small meal. Either I take it on the way, or I
Mhm.
take it
Mhm.
before I get home, or even I take 5 minutes after I get home. She sits on my
Mhm.
lap. That's fine. I tell her, please hold on. Mommy's
Mhm.
hungry. And that made her also observant. She
Mhm.
realized that, mommy needs to take care of herself. So children are very, not just observant, but children are very smart. They also understand.
Mhm.
It is us who need to say yes to ourselves. It is us who need to
Mhm.
let go of that guilt and make
Mhm.
time for ourselves.
Okay, that's very interesting. In fact, I also quote this similar example, what you were talking about, save yourself first before you do that. I mean, in the compliance world also, we come across a lot of incidences where our colleagues might be involved in fraud, or maybe you have to take tough decisions in your life where you might want to tell something, call a spade a spade. And I always tell my students also the same thing. In every of my classes, I mention that, first thing what you need to do is, I gave a similar example, when the oxygen mask drops, you have to save yourself first before you help others. Now, there's something else which most of my students actually face is that
Okay.
in their job, they will be juggling with, multiple balls, maybe the studies, their work, their husbands, their bosses. How do you think someone can, manage all this? And there's another challenge which they may feel is that how they need to keep up their own strengths and abilities, their
Okay.
well-being. How do you think that they can do that?
Okay. So one thing I mentioned earlier was about not being present, not being able to be present 100% of the time. So prioritize. Keep realistic priorities for yourself. Find out
Mhm,
what it is that you are doing in that moment of time. So let's say, for example, you mentioned studies. So I remember in 2020, at a particularly difficult time. 2020 was a start. Well, I don't think COVID started. I started
mhm,
my studies in 2018.
mhm,
And at that point in time, I was going through a career shift. My children were still young. I had two girls. One was
mhm,
only 6 or 7.
mhm.
The other one was having major exams. And I can remember asking myself, oh, how can I juggle? So at that point in time, I realized community. My community, the people around me were very important.
Mhm,
So I
mhm,
spoke to my mother, and my mother said, go for it. If you need help, and I have
mhm,
to say, my mother is not in the same, or she was not in the same country as me at that point in time.
mhm,
And
mhm,
how can I help? Well,
mhm.
there's several husband and wife jokes, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
where where it's always that the wife wants to talk and then the husband provides a solution, and the wife says, I don't need a solution, I just need someone to hear me. So
Ask me
I
that.
just exactly. So I just asked my mother, okay, can you just be there for me? So if I need some help at some point in time, can you just listen, just be there? And she being a woman, of course, she was there for me. But I
Mhm,
also am very considerate of the fact you mentioned, when you're juggling and sometimes you don't find your partners. I had a very supportive partner, but you don't
mhm.
find your partner supportive. And yes, there are times that even supportive partners also having hard times at work. They're doing their own juggling
Yeah, yeah.
between projects and home, and they also try to provide solutions. Then
Mhm,
find your
mhm.
friends. Even if
Yes,
you're a single mom or a single dad, a single parent, you need to have your own community. Even if you're married, you need to
yes,
have your own community of friends.
yes,
Sometimes the work pressure is so much. Again,
yes.
make time for yourself. Do not wait until burnout happens to make time for yourself. Do
Mhm,
it
mhm,
every day.
mhm,
Practice breathing. You just have to breathe. Even if, let's say, you come out from a very difficult meeting, or your child, I've personally encountered this. My child doesn't want to go to school in the morning. She
mhm,
needed to go to kindergarten and she threw a tantrum. I had a meeting at 8 o'clock, and 7:30 my
mhm,
daughter's throwing a tantrum.
mhm,
I can either scream and shout and throw a tantrum with her, or I can just breathe. So
mhm,
what I did was, at that point in time, I just breathed. And I think there was in the kindergarten, the teachers hadn't arrived yet, but there was
mhm.
an auntie, the cleaning auntie.
Yeah.
I really salute her. She saw the trouble I was having, and she brought my daughter in and she told me, I will take care of her. Do not worry. You can go on to work. And yes,
Mhm.
you mentioned another word as well, Girish. You talked about guilt. Did I feel
Yes.
guilty? Of course. Of course, I felt guilty. I feel guilty every time. I felt guilty every time I left my children at home. But
Mhm,
I also know that I need to work, and I
mhm,
have my goal. Why do I need to work? I need to work because I can provide for them. Sometimes I can provide for them something. Maybe I can't eat at home, I can't cook at home, I can buy something else for them. Maybe they don't like what I cook at home. They want to go out with their friends, I can provide for
Mhm.
them. So it's your goals. Why are you doing what you're doing? That is important. I hope that
That's
answered.
absolutely, of course, that's
Yes.
brilliant. I fully agree with you on the community part, and I'm not too sure about that we have kind of created three communities for my students, and one is a student community where we most of us are compliance professionals here, and most of us have got some kind of compliance certifications, and after certifications, then what? We help them to build their career. We kind of share that on the same platform. And then there is a student fun community where you can tell what you have done, where you went for morning walks or a run or something like that. Good morning messages, Eid messages, Diwali messages, all that will be sent. It's completely a fun community. And then there is a student driven community where students are in the driving seat. They actually, learn, they send the Zoom link and they keep learning it. So it's like a more like a collaborative learning approach, which we have used, and more than 60 to 70 countries, students from different countries are joining. And I completely endorse whatever you are saying. This community learning will help, and we have to learn from each other. If you don't learn from each other, I think we'll be lost. Okay. And these days, I believe that to network, it is super easy. Now, for people who do not know, I mean, I just met Karen on LinkedIn, okay, and I came across some of her posts, and she was posting about life habits, good skills, and I just started looking at these posts. And when you look at someone's post who are regularly posting things, you start observing things. And then I just sent her a message and said that, hey, Karen, can we do something about this? So then we collaborated with each other and we started looking at it. She's from Singapore. I've never met her personally. Yet we became friends. We thought that we have a like minded approach and we started doing things. Now, what's the learning for me? And what's the thing which I want to share with you guys? One is that you cannot, or you cannot give a reason that you don't have contacts. You can build contacts. That's point number one. Second is that these days, I mean, 20 years back, I know that to network it would be difficult, but now if you look at it, networking is such a easy thing. You can reach out to a person. Now, what's the best thing can happen? Like how when Karen and I are meeting, that's the best thing can happen. What's the worst thing can happen? If somebody doesn't respond, kalas, it's over. Doesn't matter. So that's something which is amazing, and the community, I think we should be doing it. Karen, there's something which I want to tell you. Okay, I mean, rather I want to ask you. Probably you may be able to help my students on this. Is how do you think some of the daily habits which someone needs to cultivate to build their change in their mindset shift? What do you think someone needs to do it?
Okay, before I get to that, Girish, you mentioned earlier about community, and I think that was fantastic. You have three learning communities. There is one point I would just wanted to make over there is about safe space.
Mhm,
One thing that we have in our culture is the idea of safe space. So we don't feel safe talking to everybody about things that happen in our families or in our
mhm,
lives.
mhm, mhm,
And that is something that is very important to us. We need to
mhm,
let go. We need a
mhm,
community, we need a safe space community where we can share our stories and we know that we will not be judged.
mhm,
I
mhm.
think that is a very important point because
Yeah,
many of us feel like whenever we share, we are being judged. If I
absolutely,
say,
absolutely.
yeah, if I say I cannot do it, or people are thinking, oh, she's not a great mother. But
Yeah,
that's not true. You will
yeah.
find that if you have a circle where you can share
Mhm,
your stories, you will find that many women, in fact,
mhm.
most women go through the same thing.
Yes.
And women want to share. We just,
Mhm.
and you made a fantastic point. If you reach out to people, you reach out to people, if people don't want to talk to you, that's fine. That's
Yeah,
okay. Not
yeah.
everybody is going to like you. As
Yes.
as as Girish said, I like the way that he said, "Class, everything is over." Because my father used to say that a lot, and that is
Okay.
that is, yeah, that is particular to Dubai and the
That's the
UAE, of
Dubai
course.
air on me.
Yes, exactly. So yes, reach out. So what's going to happen if people don't answer you? That's not saying no to you. It's just saying no to that connection. It's not you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, coming back to your question, Girish, about daily habits, about being okay. One thing I would say about exercise, I know exercise is something that we really need to do. And one thing I tell all my coaches, or the women that whom I mentor, because I do both, um, you don't have to have a 1 hour workout. It could be just 10 minutes every day. Maybe you park your car further away from your office. Maybe you don't have a car, you need to take public transport. That's fine. That's exercise. And not just exercise. If you're going to have a mindset shift, let's say you are overwhelmed by something. Even if you're not overwhelmed by something, try to do some mindful breathing. Do some mindful breathing anytime you have the space to do it. So let's say you wake up in the morning, you don't have half an hour to do yoga. Everybody says, let's do yoga, it'll make us feel better. But when it comes down to it, no one can wake up early because we are so tired, working and providing and being something to everybody. It's all right. Just take 5 minutes, just take 10 minutes, just do some mindful breathing before you start your day. During the day, just do a workout, a small walk. If you're going for lunch, walk to the place. If there's trees around, nature around, take that quiet space to just think, reflect. What is it that, a small thing that you could do? Be mindful about it. The most important thing that you need to do is be mindful about whatever you are doing. And I had a lady ask me before, how can I be mindful when I all I do is, I talk and then I go for lunch, I eat my food. I'm going to throw a question back. Do you know that you can actually be mindful about eating as well?
Okay.
Every time you put that spoon in your mouth or that fork in your mouth, or even you're using your hands, you can be mindful.
Okay.
Why
Okay.
am I eating this? How is it going to help me for the rest? And many of us say, oh, let's not have rice because I'm going to sleep and I have a meeting at 3 o'clock. I don't want to sleep. You're
Okay.
mindful. So
Brilliant.
these are
Nice.
small shifts. These are small shifts and very important, Girish. I want to I think this is very important for everyone to know. Please don't wait until it becomes a problem, because this is one thing that I'm very passionate about. Practice it every day. Start early. If you wait until it becomes a problem, it is too late. Everywhere we hear about people talking. I'm a mental wellness coach as well. Everywhere now we hear people talking about mental health. Hear stress. We hear anxiety. That is too late. Some cases you might need medication, right? But what if I had practiced it earlier? I do this mindfulness, I do this breathing, I take nature walks, I keep even 5 minutes or 10 minutes to myself when the children are sleeping, or even if the children are sitting next to me, they are quiet, or while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning, while I'm doing something that's important, some housework that is important, but I still have the time to think. I wouldn't even get to a stage where I would be anxious or stressed.
So tell me something. I mean, there are, I like the way you said that, being mindfulness. Okay. I mean, at work, when we are having stress and exhaustion, and this constantly your boss is breathing on your shoulders, how do you think one can be, I mean, what I've come across some of my students is that they say that, they don't even have time to have lunch. And I think in my previous conversation, I mentioned to you also, she takes work home and she will, kind of works till 4 in the morning. I think last time I mentioned to you. How do you think one person, kind of create or deal with the expectations, or, create some kind of a boundary saying that, hey, I want to, stop something. Maybe this expectation is coming from your inner sources, like your, your husband's expectations, or your marriage expectations, your in-laws expectations, your motherhood. Okay. Or maybe it's an expectations from your boss, which is more stressful, your career growth, and maybe you want to aspire in doing something like, passing your exams, and that's another stressful thing. So how do you think one can cope up with all these challenges which is, bombarding into your life?
That's a very good question, Girish, because Expectations, the weight of expectations, it's cultural, it's internal, sometimes it's external. It's something all of us carry. And I don't want to say that men don't carry it, men do carry it, but women carry a different kind of expectation. You know, whether we're married, okay, first when we're single, we have to be married, and once we're married, we have to have children, and then our career goals, our career dreams for family, our dreams are completely different from what our in-laws would expect or what our partners would expect. So let me just say or start off first by talking about myself. So I got married very early, and my mother-in-law stayed with me for about, I think, almost 25 years, and my children were quite young. So it is a very real challenge, especially when your in-laws expect you to be providing food for the family, to be taking care of your children, and of course you're also working, because they don't expect you to work. They don't stop you from working, but that expectation is there. So I would say the most important thing there is the expectation is external. We can't control our external factors. However, we can control how we react to it. So what I did was, for me, at that point in time, my children were important, and of course, my career was important. I couldn't take care of the house, so I did it a different way. Since I was working, I kept time aside and I got a helper to take care of the house, to take care of my mother-in-law. So now I moved that burden of responsibility, because that expectation is passed on. I delegated it. So I couldn't do it. Never mind, you do it. Then the next expectation is, how does that helper perform? Who is going to teach the helper? So I did it differently. I listened. I realized that, every person just wants to be heard. So I realized that my mother-in-law is very capable of training the helper herself. So again, I delegated. I listened to what she wanted, and I said, okay, you are good at this. You are very good at this. Why don't you go ahead and help? Of course, that also meant me saying no to certain things for myself. So, for example, I have a very different cultural background from my husband. So I don't get to eat what I want to eat. I eat what my in-laws want to eat. So these are small things which which may be big issues in certain houses, but for me, because what I mentioned before, my priority, my goals were clear. My career was important. My children were important. It didn't matter. Food was, small priority. So it's very important to have your priority straight. Everything starts from your goals. And at any moment in time, your priorities may shift. So today, your career may be important. Tomorrow, your children may be more important. The day after tomorrow, your in-laws may be more important. Okay. And if your boss is breathing down your neck, that was another thing that came up.
Yes.
I think one thing that we as women need to learn is, and I learned it, is how to say no without guilt. And we are not the only ones who have to learn it. In my corporate role, I was a head of department. I even had my team. I had members who couldn't say no, and they were not necessarily women. How do we say no? We start by setting small boundaries. I know as women, we want to do everything. My children say, Mommy, you need to be there at this concert. I need to be there. My boss says, you need to deliver this. And he's breathing down my neck. I say, okay, I'll do it. Because inherently, our worth, when I don't know how this happens, but as we grow up, as we watch our parents, as we watch our society, the people around us, our worth comes from making everybody happy. And I got to tell you, I was a people pleaser, a big people pleaser. I still am, and I fight with it. I fight that people pleasing tendency that I have, and I learned how to say no. So now, and that is something that I learned quite late in my career, is how to say no to people. So I would say something like, I'd love to help, but please come and have a look at my calendar. I don't have the capacity to help you right now. Or if it was my team member, oh, I will get back to you. Until my team members, they realize that they have to block my time if they really want me to answer something.
Okay.
So if it's urgent, I will get to it immediately. But if it's not urgent, I will show them that I will show them my list, what I have in my queue, and tell them that I don't have the capacity at this moment to deal with it. And that is how I learned to prioritize. And I learned to prioritize myself. And as I got ahead in my career, I started to put in focus times for myself. So before every meeting and after every meeting, I keep 5 minutes for myself. Before meeting,
Okay.
I keep that time for me to prepare for the meeting and to do a switch. After meeting, again, it is a switch, but also to recover from that meeting,
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
down the notes from that meeting.
Yeah.
So that is how. And of course, if you have a boss breathing down your neck, if you don't say no, he's going to come at you and come at you and come at you until you are down. You have to
True.
learn to say no, and you have to manage that guilt.
True. True. True.
It's
I,
never
I
too
like
late.
the I like one of the things which you mentioned about prioritizing. I mean, can you just tell the audience as to how you managed prioritizing? I mean, even I would like to learn from you as to how you prioritize. Maybe a simple tip from your side, please.
In terms of prioritizing, so okay, I was a technical leader. So for me, prioritizing meant customer requests versus my development job. So initially, I was given a development team, but I'll just give you an overview of how it was
Yeah,
done.
yeah, perfect. Yes.
I had a development team. When you head a development team, development jobs are okay. Let's say you are looking at an LMS, right, Girish? So let's take that LMS. I need to change the color of a button, for example, or I need to include text. However, a support request comes in. So now I've planned for this. My team has planned for this. My team is all happy doing it. And a support request comes in and says, oh, this LMS is being hosted on AWS. But however, AWS is down today, and now you need there is no distribution, there is no retention of data, the data is not accessible. How do I deal with this when my development team is already doing and is already committed to delivering something, a feature that is there? So I brought in, I separated my team. I learned the strengths of my team, and that's of course, being a strengths coach, I can tell you more about that later. But I learned the strengths of my team, and those who are good with support, I put them into a support team, and I left the rest in development team. And of course, taking into account, what they wanted to do. So the support team, and there's a support request, the support team takes full care of it, and nobody touches the development team. So that is how I prioritize my teamwork. And when you
Okay.
bring that to yourself, it's very easy to do as well. So
Absolutely.
it really depends on how that prioritization happens.
Yeah, I think that's a very critical thing. But sometimes what I have personally come across with some of my students who are having, maybe a lack of confidence in themselves, or maybe they have a
Okay.
self-doubt among themselves. Maybe because of bad personal relationships in the past, maybe proper guidelines or guidance which has been given, somebody has guided them wrongly, or maybe they are the partners, they couldn't cope up with their partners. So, or maybe in any other many there could be many other reasons where they are having kind of doubt on themselves. They don't feel confident. Okay, they don't feel confident when they're doing anything. So
Okay.
how do you think someone who was constantly facing difficulties right from maybe from the childhood days to adult age? I had students, I mean, actually approach me also and tell me some things which about their childhood days they had gone through this, and that's why they are finding difficulty to face or to say no, or to say to have a self doubt on themselves. So how do you think one can build this kind of a capability in themselves? How do you think we can do that?
I think you have to start right from scratch in that case. You have to understand what success means for you.
Mm.
So what is your definition of success? So my definition of success may be very different from what your definition of success is. Maybe I just want peace of mind. But for you, maybe you want the money is important because if you don't bring that money back home, somebody else suffers or something else suffers or you cannot do something else. So first step, what is success to you? And I think what many of us do and what I did early on in my day is comparing myself with others. I become I doubt myself because
Yes,
I compare myself to others. And why
absolutely.
does that happen? Because when I was young, people were very critical of me. My
Yes,
parents were very critical of me. I
yes,
bring home 7 out of 10 in my dictation. Why did you get 7? Why not 10?
yes,
Of course,
yes,
parents have best intentions at heart, right?
yes.
But that criticism grows, and that
True.
small doubt stays with you as you grow up and into the corporate life. Of course,
Absolutely.
that is one thing. But I also invite you to think about your family and your children.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel this way now, what changes would you make so your children don't feel that way? I ask myself this question. And I realized that I don't want my daughter to have self-doubt. I want my
Mm-hmm.
daughter to believe in herself. So
Mm-hmm.
when she brought 7 out of 10 home, I said, that's okay. Did you do your best? She says,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I did my best.
Mm-hmm.
How much effort did you put into it? I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
have to ask her that. She told me, oh, mom, I'm so tired. I worked until 11 or until 12 midnight, and then I woke up again at 2 and I did this and I did that. Now I know
Mm-hmm.
she did she put in the effort. I said, okay, well done. You put in the effort, you did your best. That's it. And
Mm-hmm.
today, my eldest, she's in uni now, but she herself goes ahead because I did that.
Mm-hmm.
She does not have self-doubt. She sets her own goals and she goes ahead and she does things on her own. She's independent. So I really invite you to, if you say that, if you think that it came from the past, you are right, it did. But what is the change that you want to make for your children? And when you start looking at it from that angle, you
Mm-hmm.
will make that change.
Mm-hmm. So tell me something. This is if you have a family or if you have someone with you like your spouse or your kids, but there are a lot of single parents or maybe they are single persons in their family. They don't have partners or husbands. They don't have kids,
Okay.
and they don't have maybe families who is being there with them. And some people might have lost their parents young, so they're kind of all alone. I mean, how do
Mm.
you think they can manage or how they can self-sustain or self-support themselves?
Self-sustain to overcome to gain confidence, you mean?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
to build,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's three things here, right? Courage, confidence, and conviction. All of
Mm-hmm.
us have our strengths. We all have our strengths, right? We all have a
Mm-hmm.
certain belief system. We all have a certain set of values that we come by. And
Mm-hmm.
what is conviction? Conviction is that value system. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if for me, integrity means a lot, I will always be consistent in whatever I say and do. So
Mm-hmm.
that becomes my strength. So when
Mm-hmm.
I have that courage to go out, what is courage? Courage is just a lack of fear, right? Sorry,
Yeah,
courage is just the fear. Sorry, courage
yeah,
is lack of fear to go out and do something. So if
that's
I
right.
have that conviction and I have that belief, take
Mm-hmm.
that step, take that next step.
Mm-hmm.
And you may think, okay, I don't have a family, I don't have children, I don't have spouse, but there are so many people watching you, right? Even if you are in a company working, all the people around you are watching you. When
Mm-hmm.
I was a young engineer, I was not the only young engineer. I still remember two of us joined on the same day, and we were both ladies.
Mm-hmm.
So she was watching me, I was watching her. So there are
Mm-hmm.
some things that she could do and some things that I could do.
Mm-hmm.
So what example do you want to set for them?
Yeah.
And what do you actually want to learn from the other people around? And that is the second point. Um, find your mentors and find your allies. As women, when we are in a company, we need mentors, we need allies. Even men need them, but as women, we need them more because we are
Yeah.
faced with biases and we are faced with all types of challenges that I don't want to keep men aside, but we have a different set of challenges than men.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that comes from culture that we cannot change it. Like
Yeah.
it or lump it, we cannot change it.
Yeah.
So we need to have our allies. So when we take that courage, we want to share that belief. I mean, we have that belief system. We want to share that. Step forward, and that will give you confidence to, say it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to, if you believe in your values, you will automatically have that courage. And that brings me to the last point, being authentic. Everybody talks about authentic is another buzzword now. You hear it everywhere. What is being authentic? I always used to think that I need to have a mask on at work. Why? Why do I need to have a mask on at work? Because I people please, right? I don't want people to not like me. But everybody is not going to like you. If I don't want people, if I want people to like me, then my value system is going to have trouble because I don't like to do something and somebody asks me to do it. I want them to like me, so I'm going to do it. So that's the last part. If you're not authentic, if you're having that mask on at work, then confidence will be hard to come by. Courage will be hard to come by.
True. So to tell me one more thing which comes into my mind is now how can one just build some kind of a confidence within themselves? I mean, is it by talking to or networking to people? Is that what you are saying that?
You have to start small. It depends
Okay.
on what you want to build confidence in. So, for example, if for me, I had a fear of public speaking. And if I needed to go out and talk, like I'm talking to all of you today, it wouldn't come naturally, right? So what I would do is I would go and have small team meetings, or maybe have even smaller meetings, talk first amongst two people, then make it bigger, make it bigger, make it bigger. And that's where networking would come in. So today, if someone asks me about, even if they say, okay, if I find it easier to talk in front of people I know, but if I need to talk in front of people I don't know, I get tongue-tied. I'll tell you a very funny experience that happened to me. At work, we had this badminton competition. So it was a work thing, and it was the first time that I actually joined because I'm an introvert. My personality is introvert. I used to believe that work is work and home is home. You don't enjoy yourself at work. You do your work and then you go home. So that was my belief. So you see, this is the mask at work, right? So there was
Absolutely.
this badminton competition. I practiced like crazy. I found a partner, a colleague. I practiced like crazy. On the day itself, we actually practiced and it was like a community center with a stage. So we went on the stage and we were practicing while the actual finals were happening down there. Everything went well. And then suddenly my partner had to go back because his wife was delivering. He had to be at the hospital. So my colleague left and I got another colleague to fit in. I didn't get a chance to practice with this colleague, but I knew him well. We worked well together. So it
Okay.
came up. We are not playing on stage. We are playing down there where all the finals are happening. My fear struck out. The moment I saw myself being surrounded by all these people, I stood there with the racket in my hand. I couldn't even hit one. I couldn't move. I was stuck. I was just stuck. And this new colleague of mine who suddenly became my partner in doubles, he was running everywhere.
Okay.
So this is what happens. This is actually a thing. You get
Yeah.
tongue-tied. So
I
start
think
small.
yeah, I think you said one thing very, very important, which I just made a note is that, public speaking is one of the greatest fear people have. And many people come back to me telling that, hey, you know what, I'm an introvert. Okay. I mean, see, being an introvert is actually, you have so much of strength within yourselves, being an introvert.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
introvertness is nothing but your analytical skills are amazing when you are an introvert. Okay. You'll start analyzing things in a better way rather than, an extrovert is like, sometimes, not always, but extroverts are sometimes called as loose cannons. Okay. They do not know what they speak. They may promise, over promise, or under deliver. But an introvert actually speaks or chooses the right words. And I personally feel that uh, being introvert is not a disability. In fact, it is a strength. Okay. And why am I emphasizing on this is because most of the compliance professionals are introverts. Okay. We like to go back to our desk and we like to work with Excel spreadsheets. We like to work with our analytics or analysis, and we try to fix our head into the computer and work there. And that's what we are. We are not like a sales professional who can go and meet people. And what I try to do in my little community, which I'm trying to achieve, is that I try to tell my students, like, why don't you, put yourself in front of the larger audience. Okay, put yourself in the larger audience. What will happen maximum? Maximum, people might put a smiley face emoji on your, on your comment, or maybe they may. I mean, in fact, I tell students also, why don't you record yourself and, show that recording to me? I mean, maybe it's like, maybe after you pass your exams, why don't you give me a testimonial? I mean, I would be happy to get that also. I mean, I'm openly telling it. So they hesitate saying that, they don't do it. Now, it's a message to everybody to tell you that that's, you know, you cannot hide. Okay, you cannot hide. You have to expose yourself in small ways. And when you're exposing yourself in small ways, you are going to show the world what you have. And that talent over a period of time keeps building. And that's exactly even what I did. Even I was hesitant. I was hesitant to talk to public. I was hesitant to, meet people. I was hesitant to write a comment on something. Now I'm trying to build my own strengths by, creating short videos, publishing them. I feel it's not worth it. My language, or maybe the skills what I'm talking, it's not great. But yet I do an attempt, and yet I try to do it, because only by constantly practicing you will improve yourself. And that's where I also want to tell another one point, is that, which I strongly agree with you. I'm sorry I'm taking this time from you, is that public speaking is another form of facing an interview. Okay. When you're facing an interview, it's is equal to public speaking. You might have a panel of about 5 members, and you can't just say, hey, look at my CV and then give me a job. Nobody will do that. They want to learn from you. They want to understand from you. So you should be able to communicate. So you should be taking that skills of articulating the right words, talking about the right things, and talking to them. I brilliantly agree with your point, Karen. Thank you very much for bringing this. And one small thing which I just wanted to ask you about is, how do you manage to meet all the deadlines? You said you were an IT professional. Now you have your coaching coaching sessions which you do it. You have your parents. And I've seen you a lot of posts on LinkedIn which you put. How do you manage all these things, and how do you keep meeting the deadlines? That's something which I'm really intrigued to know about.
Okay. Before I answer that, Girish, you were absolutely right about, recharging ourselves as introverts. And I think there is one mindset, about public speaking, about courage, um, and standing out, having that confidence. And that is your definition of failure.
Mhm.
Never fear failure. Failure is a path to growth. If you don't
Yeah.
fail, means you are not doing anything.
Mhm.
Never allow anyone to take failure from you. It is a good thing to
Mhm.
fail. And please encourage that in your children as well. As a parent, I very strongly recommend this. Do not go after your children when they fail, because it is a lesson for them. We have so many young adults out there today, who cannot cope in corporate life because they were never taught to fail. Their parents did everything for them. And this is becoming a big problem because this leads to stress and this leads to anxiety. So if you view failure as a learning opportunity, you will have the courage to step out there and speak out, attend interviews, fail at them, learn something from them, and pass the next time. So
Okay.
yes, I really had to say that because this is something I'm very, very passionate about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I really don't know. This is not a what you call that a practice thing which we did, Karen, and I'm so happy that you mentioned about it because my students are a witness over here, and I was just making a note of it. Every of my class, I mentioned the same thing. It's okay to fail, and if you want to fail, fail in my class. Don't go and fail outside. So I allowed them to be vulnerable. I allowed them to talk or ask me any questions. No questions are silly. No questions are small in my class. Anything can be asked, and I'll do my level best to do that. I mean, you asked me, before the session, you asked me this question: how do you manage your day? How do you take rest? This is a question which you asked me, and I get my strength. I get my energy when my students talk to me. I get my inner strength when students talk to me. Yes, I have a wonderful family, my lovely son and my wife. I mean, like, they support me to the core. I mean, no doubt about that. She even doesn't allow me to lift a small thing. She takes care of me. That's I'm blessed with that. But apart from that, if I have to tell you that, you know, I believe that, every student of mine, or everybody for that, for my students, actually need to look at things as an opportunity. Doesn't matter if it is wrong or if it is small. Start in a small way, grow up